In recent years, a powerful wave of transgender celebrities has taken center stage, defying expectations, breaking down barriers, and inspiring millions worldwide. In this video, we dive into the incredible stories of stars you may not have realized were assigned male at birth, but who now live boldly and beautifully in their truth. From red carpet royalty to trailblazing fashion icons, their journeys are nothing short of extraordinary, marked by courage, reinvention, and unapologetic authenticity. Get ready to witness stunning before and after transformations and celebrate the strength behind every story that's changing hearts and minds across the globe. Cait Jenner's journey from Olympic hero Bruce Jenner to living authentically as Caitlyn stands as one of the most powerful and public transformations in modern history. For millions of baby boomers, Bruce was once the face of American greatness, the all-American decathlete who soared to Olympic gold at the 1976 Montreal Games, landing on cereal boxes and late-night talk shows as the symbol of strength and success. But behind the cheers and championship podiums was a deeply private struggle, a quiet war with gender identity that had begun in childhood and never truly faded. Growing up in the 1950s and 60s, a time when gender norms were carved in stone and the word transgender was barely whispered, young Bruce found an unexpected sense of peace in secretly wearing his mother's and sister's clothes. That hidden world offered comfort but came wrapped in shame and fear. To survive, Bruce threw himself into sports, channeling his confusion into raw ambition and discipline. Athletics became both his armor and his escape, an outward display of control over an inward storm. Even at the height of his fame, that storm never stopped. Bruce became a husband and father, raising a family while keeping his truth locked away. During his marriage to Linda Thompson, he tried to open up, but the words couldn't bridge the gap. Later, in his relationship with Kris Jenner, he revealed that he had begun hormone therapy, an admission that shook their marriage. They built an empire together, raising a blended family that would later become world famous through Keeping Up with the Kardashians, all while Bruce wrestled silently with the question, "Who am I?" Then, in 2015, at the age of 65, when most people are easing into retirement, Caitlyn stepped forward and claimed her truth. Her Vanity Fair cover, boldly titled "Call Me Caitlyn," wasn't just a headline. It was a cultural lightning strike. Overnight, she became the face of a new conversation about identity, courage, and the freedom to live openly. Her children, like much of the world, needed time to understand. But through grace, dialogue, and love, support slowly replaced uncertainty. Caitlyn's story is more than a physical transformation. It's a powerful testament to the human need for authenticity. Her journey reminds us that there's no expiration date on truth. For anyone who has ever felt unseen or misunderstood, Cait Jenner's story sends a message that echoes across generations. It's never too late to become who you truly are, and in doing so, you just might give someone else the courage to do the same. Elliot Paige, the Canadian actor and producer celebrated for standout roles in Juno, Inception, and X-Men, The Last Stand, has long captivated audiences with his talent. But beyond the accolades and red carpets lies a far more powerful story, one of courage, identity, and personal truth. For many baby boomers who remember his early rise to fame, Elliot's later revelation reshaped everything we thought we knew about his journey. In December 2020, Elliot made global headlines by coming out as transgender in a heartfelt Instagram post. "Hi friends," he wrote, "I want to share with you that I am trans. My pronouns are he/they, and my name is Elliot." The message was brief, but its impact was seismic. It ignited conversations around the world about gender identity, visibility, and what it means to live authentically in the public eye. But Elliot's decision to come out wasn't sudden. It was the result of years of inner conflict and emotional reflection. From a young age, he felt a deep disconnect between who he was inside and the gender he was expected to perform. Even as fame grew, so did the pressure to conform, leaving him battling a private storm beneath the spotlight. Choosing to live openly wasn't just a personal milestone. It was a radical act of self-acceptance and bravery. The world responded with overwhelming support. Fans, fellow actors, and LGBTQ+ advocates rallied around him, celebrating not just his identity but his willingness to speak out. Elliot quickly stepped into a new kind of spotlight, not only as a performer, but as a passionate advocate for trans rights. He's used his platform to speak out on vital issues like access to inclusive healthcare, legal protections, and social acceptance, delivering his message with both humility and strength. Art imitated life in a deeply meaningful way when Elliot's character on Netflix's The Umbrella Academy, Victor Hargreaves, underwent his own transition in Season 3. Rather than gloss over Elliot's real-life journey, the show honored it, offering one of the most authentic portrayals of gender identity ever seen in mainstream television. Today, Elliot Paige stands as more than just a Hollywood star. He's a symbol of resilience, truth, and the unshakable power of living as your full self. His story reminds us all, whether we're just starting out or well into life, that self-discovery has no deadline. And in choosing to live openly, Elliot challenges us to not only accept others more fully, but to understand ourselves more deeply. Chaz Bono. When Sonny and Cher introduced their daughter Chastity to the world in 1969, they appeared to be the picture-perfect family. Baby boomers will remember that angelic child smiling beside her superstar parents on their wildly popular variety show. But behind the glittering stage lights and adoring fans, a quiet inner struggle was already taking root, one that would later blossom into one of the most courageous and visible gender transitions in pop culture history. From early childhood, Chastity sensed something was deeply off. Though raised as a girl, the identity never fit. Beneath the smiles and red carpet appearances was a soul wrestling with confusion, anxiety, and a growing disconnect between body and self. For decades, Chastity hid this truth, afraid of disappointing family, fans, and a world still unready to understand what it meant to be transgender. It wasn't until the late 2000s, at the age of 40, that Chastity made a life-altering choice: to embrace his truth and become Chaz Bono. Through hormone therapy and gender-affirming surgery, Chaz began aligning his outer image with the man he had always been inside. But the transformation wasn't just physical, it was an emotional rebirth. It meant reclaiming his life from years lived in quiet pain. The shift wasn't easy, especially for those closest to him. Cher, a cultural icon and fiercely protective mother, openly admitted to struggling with the change. But despite her initial confusion, her love never wavered. In time, Cher became one of Chaz's strongest allies, calling his bravery beyond extraordinary and expressing pride in the man he'd become. Chaz's journey didn't stop with personal healing. He emerged as a passionate advocate for the transgender community, using his voice in documentaries, interviews, and public forums to educate and inspire. His second act as an actor saw him portraying roles that mirrored his lived experience in shows like The Bold and the Beautiful and American Horror Story. Chaz Bono's story isn't just about identity, it's about resilience, honesty, and the power of living your truth. For older generations unfamiliar with transgender realities, his journey offers a bridge to understanding and empathy. His life reminds us that it's never too late to embrace authenticity, and that love, when rooted in compassion, can evolve and transcend anything. Andrea Pedik, a name now synonymous with elegance, resilience, and fearless authenticity. But before the world knew her as the groundbreaking transgender model, she first captivated the fashion industry as Andrea Pedik, an androgynous male model who blurred gender lines and defied expectations on runways around the world. In the early 2010s, baby boomers might recall striking magazine covers and catwalks where Andrea seamlessly modeled both menswear and womenswear, turning heads and challenging norms with a grace that felt both futuristic and timeless. Born in war-torn Bosnia and raised in Australia, Andrea always sensed she was different, though the words to describe it didn't come easily. As a child, she was drawn to makeup and dress-up games, finding joy in the softness and creativity of femininity. But society had already written a script for her, one that demanded masculinity, conformity, and silence. She didn't fit that mold. Her delicate features, while stunning to the fashion world, became targets for teasing and isolation in her teenage years. The loneliness was real, but so was her spark. Fashion became her refuge, a place that not only welcomed the unconventional but celebrated it. Yet, as her modeling career soared, a deeper truth weighed heavily on her. She wasn't meant to live as a man. The thought of transitioning stirred both hope and terror. Would she be cast aside? Would the world she'd fought so hard to break into turn its back on her? For years, Andrea wrestled with these questions, until the emotional toll of living a double life became too much. In 2014, at the height of her fame, she made the brave decision to begin her gender transition. It was a journey marked by psychological evaluations, medical hurdles, and soul-searching. But she emerged stronger, more whole, and fully herself. Instead of fading from the spotlight, Andrea shattered another ceiling, becoming the first openly transgender woman to grace the cover of GQ Portugal. It was more than a magazine cover. It was a revolution, a declaration that beauty, identity, and strength come in many forms. Looking back now, Andrea doesn't just reflect on her transformation, she honors the courage it took to arrive. If she could speak to that little girl trapped in confusion and fear, she'd whisper, "It's okay. You're not broken. You're becoming." Her story isn't just about fashion. It's about freedom. A reminder that the most powerful thing you can wear is your truth. Fallon Fox's story isn't just about breaking barriers in sports, it's a powerful testament to resilience, identity, and the unshakable courage it takes to live your truth in a world that doesn't always welcome change. Born in Toledo, Ohio, Fallon grew up in a home where traditional gender roles were the rule, not the exception. From a young age, she felt out of place, sensing a deep connection to girlhood that she couldn't put into words, and wasn't allowed to express. There was no emotional refuge, no space to be heard. When she finally came out to her parents, she was met with painful rejection. Her mother dismissed her, and her father, unable to understand, insisted she was just gay. In a misguided attempt to fix her, he subjected her to conversion therapy, a practice now condemned for the harm it causes. But Fallon knew, deep in her soul, that she wasn't male. With little support and every reason to give up, she instead made the brave decision to transition. It was a defining moment, not just of identity, but of defiance. A declaration that she would live as the person she was always meant to be. That same fire led her into the unforgiving world of mixed martial arts. After transitioning, Fallon became the first openly transgender athlete to compete professionally in MMA, a sport built on strength, strategy, and survival. Her debut sparked headlines and instant controversy. Detractors claimed she had an unfair advantage. But before her truth was public, those same critics had praised her performance without hesitation. Her skills hadn't changed, only the world's perception of her had. Still, Fallon never backed down. Through the media firestorms, the personal losses, and the relentless scrutiny, she stood firm. She used her platform not just to compete, but to speak out, for fairness, for inclusion, for every athlete who's ever been told they don't belong. She reminded us that greatness isn't born, it's earned through discipline, sacrifice, and heart. Fallon's battle wasn't limited to the cage. She fought ignorance with truth and bigotry with grace. For older generations who've watched social norms evolve, her story may challenge long-held beliefs, but at its core, it's about something timeless: the right to be seen, to be respected, and to live without shame. Fallon Fox didn't just fight opponents. She fought a system, a stigma, and a society still learning how to embrace difference. And in doing so, she became more than a fighter. She became a symbol of what it means to be fearless, to be authentic, and to never stop pushing forward, no matter the cost. Carmen Carrera first burst onto the scene in Season 3 of RuPaul's Drag Race, captivating audiences with her undeniable charisma, polished performances, and magnetic confidence. For many fans, especially those who followed the early years of the show, Carmen wasn't just a contestant. She was a star in the making. But what came after the spotlight faded was even more powerful than anything she did on stage. Carmen embarked on a deeply personal and courageous journey. She transitioned from male to female, redefining not only her own identity but also challenging the public's perception of gender. For those who had admired her in drag, the decision was bold, even shocking. But Carmen didn't flinch. She chose to live her truth unapologetically, knowing that her story could offer hope to those walking the same path and spark vital conversations about acceptance and identity. Her transition wasn't just a private evolution, it became a public act of advocacy. One defining moment came when she openly criticized RuPaul's Drag Race for using the term "shemale," calling it offensive to the transgender community. The backlash was swift. Some accused her of betraying her roots in the drag world. But Carmen stood her ground. She wasn't trying to erase the past, she was trying to elevate the future. By speaking out, she pushed for clearer lines between drag artistry and transgender identity, demanding dignity and respect in a space that often blurred the two. Carmen didn't stop there. She stepped into the high fashion world, turning heads on international runways and gracing the pages of W Magazine and Vogue. But it wasn't just her striking beauty that caught attention, it was her integrity. She used her rising fame not for vanity, but for visibility. She became a loud, proud voice for the transgender community in industries that had long ignored it. Despite the controversy, Carmen chose grace over grudges. In later interviews, she's expressed warmth toward RuPaul, saying she'd embrace him if they crossed paths again. Her response speaks volumes. It's not about division, but about healing. About building bridges where walls once stood. Today, Carmen Carrera is far more than a former drag queen or runway model. She's a trailblazer, a warrior, a symbol of what it means to live boldly, love loudly, and fight for the right to be seen. Her journey reminds us that courage isn't always loud, it's sometimes in the quiet refusal to back down. And through her truth, Carmen has opened doors that future generations will walk through with pride. Gina Rosero isn't just a beautiful face in the world of fashion. She's a beacon of courage, resilience, and truth. In 2014, she stood on a TED Talk stage and did something few in her position had ever dared to do. She came out publicly as a transgender woman. The revelation sent ripples through the modeling industry and far beyond. For years, Gina had dazzled on runways and in magazines, her poise and elegance earning her accolades. But beneath the surface was a story she had long kept hidden. For truth, Gina's journey began in the Philippines, where at just 5 years old, she told her mother with quiet certainty, "I'm a girl." Unlike many transgender youth who are met with confusion or rejection, Gina was blessed with a family who loved and supported her. That love became her anchor. By 19, she had undergone gender confirmation surgery, aligning her physical self with the identity she had always known to be true. But even with that life-changing step, Gina kept her past closely guarded. In the high-stakes world of fashion, where image is everything, she feared that revealing her identity might cost her everything: jobs, friendships, respect, and her future. But deep down, Gina knew staying silent meant denying not just herself, but an entire community that too often goes unseen and unheard. So she chose courage. She chose visibility. Her TED Talk, delivered with raw honesty and quiet strength, wasn't just a coming out, it was a call to action. And instead of losing everything, she gained the one thing that mattered most: her voice. The fashion world didn't turn its back. Instead, it stood beside her. Agencies, colleagues, and fans praised her bravery. And Gina, no longer hiding, began to thrive in a new way. Not just as a model, but as a powerful advocate for transgender rights and inclusion. Today, Gina Rosero continues to break barriers. She speaks out for those who can't. She challenges the media to do better. And she paves a path for the next generation of trans youth who deserve to grow up with dignity, safety, and pride. For those who've witnessed the long road of civil rights progress, Gina's story feels like a new chapter. A bold, beautiful reminder that authenticity is a form of resistance and that one person's truth can change the world. Gina Rosero's legacy isn't just about walking the runway. It's about walking in truth and lighting the way for others to follow. Chanel West Coast and the Lee Norris Rumor, a tale of internet confusion and real-life grace. In one of the internet's strangest and most persistent myths, rapper and TV personality Chanel West Coast found herself at the heart of an identity mix-up that continues to puzzle online communities. According to this bizarre theory, Chanel is secretly Lee Norris, The actor best known for playing the brainy and lovable Stuart Minkus on the 90s sitcom Boy Meets World. Minkus, with his oversized glasses and quirky charm, left a lasting impression on a generation of viewers. But years later, fans began noticing facial similarities between Norris and Chanel West Coast, sparking rumors that Norris had transitioned and re-emerged in the spotlight under a new name. The theory spread like wildfire, comical to some, confusing to others, and deeply misleading overall. Let's set the record straight. Lee Norris and Chanel West Coast are two entirely separate people with their own distinct careers. Norris has remained active in the acting world, with roles in Girl Meets World, Gone Girl, and even The Walking Dead. Meanwhile, Chanel West Coast has made a name for herself in reality television, most notably on Rob Dyrdek's Fantasy Factory, where her infectious laugh and bubbly spirit turned her into a fan favorite. She's also earned respect in the music world with her high-energy rap tracks and bold, unapologetic persona. Still, the rumor refused to die. And while it may seem harmless at first glance, Chanel recognized the deeper implications of such internet falsehoods. Instead of brushing it off or firing back, she addressed the situation with surprising grace and empathy. She expressed concern not just for her own reputation, but for Lee Norris, an actor whose continued work in entertainment had been unfairly overshadowed by online speculation. More importantly, Chanel used the moment to highlight a broader issue. She emphasized that gender identity is not a joke or a punchline. It's a personal and often painful journey that deserves respect, not ridicule. Transitioning is an experience rooted in courage and vulnerability, and to twist it into the subject of a viral hoax is both ignorant and harmful. With clarity and compassion, Chanel reminded the world that human dignity should never be sacrificed for internet clout. Despite the noise, Chanel hasn't let the rumors define her. She's continued to thrive, whether in music, television, or entrepreneurship. Her response to the chaos, measured, thoughtful, and mature, has only solidified her place as more than just a performer. She's a woman of resilience, integrity, and strength. In an era where misinformation spreads faster than truth, Chanel West Coast stands as a rare example of how to rise above the nonsense, with intelligence, with heart, and with purpose. Leverne Cox isn't just an actress, she's a revolution. A fearless pioneer who reshaped how the world sees transgender people, especially in Hollywood. Her breakout role as Sophia Bursett on Netflix's Orange is the New Black didn't just earn her a historic Emmy nomination as the first openly transgender person in that category, it shattered barriers. Her portrayal wasn't just powerful. It was raw, real, and deeply human. For millions of viewers, it was the first time they truly saw a Black transgender woman, not as a punchline or stereotype, but as a complex, relatable soul. Born and raised in conservative Mobile, Alabama, Laverne's early life was anything but easy. She was bullied, isolated, and misunderstood simply for being herself. Refusing to conform to rigid gender expectations, she became a target long before she had a voice. But instead of folding under the pressure, Laverne used the pain to fuel her purpose. With courage and ambition, she left the Deep South and headed to New York City, chasing a dream that felt almost impossible for someone like her. At the time, transgender performers were practically invisible in the industry. But that didn't stop her. Her role on Orange is the New Black changed everything, not just for Laverne, but for the culture. Her performance sparked conversations, opened hearts, and flipped the narrative. In 2014, she graced the cover of Time magazine under the headline, "The Transgender Tipping Point," a cultural landmark that signaled a shift in awareness the world could no longer ignore. Since then, Laverne has used her platform to become a powerful advocate, especially for transgender women of color who are too often silenced, erased, or targeted. She's spoken in front of lawmakers, led discussions at major universities, and produced hard-hitting documentaries that reveal the harsh realities of trans life in America. But for her, it's never been just about the spotlight. It's about lighting the way for others. To those who've witnessed decades of struggle for civil rights, Laverne's story feels like the next chapter in a long fight for dignity and equality. She's living proof that authenticity, talent, and resilience can change hearts and history. In an industry still learning how to tell every story, Leverne Cox stands tall as a reminder: representation matters, and one voice, raised with truth, can spark a movement. The Wachowski sisters, Lana and Lily, aren't just the creative minds behind The Matrix, they're symbols of transformation both on and off the screen. Once known to many baby boomers as the Wachowski brothers, these visionary filmmakers redefined the action genre with mind-bending visuals, philosophical depth, and a new kind of storytelling that challenged the boundaries of reality. But behind the cinematic brilliance was a much more personal journey, one of courage, identity, and self-discovery. Lana was the first to step into the spotlight as her true self. In 2012, after years of quiet struggle and media speculation, she publicly came out as a transgender woman during a powerful speech at a human rights campaign event. Her words were raw, heartfelt, and deeply moving, resonating with millions around the world. 4 years later, in 2016, her sister Lily followed. Faced with the threat of being outed by a journalist, Lily chose to own her truth on her own terms, delivering a bold and empowering message about the right to live authentically. What makes their stories so remarkable isn't just that both siblings transitioned, it's that they did it together. In an industry often driven by image and expectation, the Wachowskis leaned on each other for support, turning their shared experience into a source of strength and visibility for the LGBTQ+ community. As fans and critics began to revisit The Matrix with fresh eyes, deeper meanings emerged, themes of breaking free, questioning reality, and embracing one's true self, not just science fiction, but echoes of their real lives. Lana and Lily didn't just reshape cinema, they helped shift culture. At a time when representation matters more than ever, their bravery has become a beacon for authenticity, inclusion, and the transformative power of living your truth. For anyone who's ever felt trapped by the roles they've been assigned, the Wachowski story is a reminder. The most revolutionary art comes from the most honest places, and sometimes, the most heroic act is simply becoming who you really are. Schaefer. Schaefer is more than just a rising star. She's the face of a fearless new generation redefining what it means to be seen, heard, and celebrated. As an actress, model, and activist, Hunter captured hearts and headlines with her breakout role as Jules Vaughn in HBO's Euphoria. With raw emotion and stunning vulnerability, she portrayed a transgender teen grappling with love, identity, and self-acceptance, delivering a performance that wasn't just praised, it was unforgettable. But long before the bright lights of Hollywood, Hunter was already making history. As a teenager, she became one of the young voices challenging North Carolina's notorious bathroom bill, standing at the forefront of a national battle for transgender rights. Her courage made headlines and marked the beginning of her journey as a fierce advocate for equality. What sets Hunter apart isn't just her talent, it's her creative vision. Not only did she bring Jules to life on screen, she also co-wrote a special episode of Euphoria, offering a deeply personal look into the character's world. Her writing gave the show an unmatched emotional authenticity that resonated far beyond the screen. Outside of television, Hunter is making waves in the fashion industry, too, walking for powerhouses like Dior, Miu Miu, and Marc Jacobs. With every runway strut and every bold photo shoot, she's challenging outdated beauty standards and opening doors for others to follow. Today, Schaefer is more than a role model, she's a movement. Her artistry, advocacy, and unapologetic truth are lighting the way for a new era where transgender voices aren't just included, they're leading. Through her work and her words, she's shown young people everywhere that being different is not a weakness, it's a superpower. Thanks for watching Exposed Hollywood. If you were inspired by this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We've got more incredible stories coming your way. See you in the next one.